scratch a tech entrepreneur and you find hope that his product will change the world for the better. I've always felt an inchoate suspicion when I hear Silicon Valley talk about social change. I have never been able to put words to it. Kentaro Toyama has, in his book Geek Heresy, Rescuing Social Change from the Cult of Technology. Thank you for coming in. In your book, you talk about these experiments from the early 2000s, the computer in the wall in Bangalore, Nicholas Negroponte's one laptop per child. I was a tech journalist at the time. I wrote about these as if they were amazing. I was wrong. We were all wrong. What was wrong with the idea that technology could improve lives?
Well, ultimately, I always say that technology amplifies underlying human forces. And so what that means is, ironically, exactly in those places where we want technology to have the most impact, usually the human forces are not aligned in a way to take advantage of the technology. So, for example, with these laptops, exactly in the places where the educational system is broken or dysfunctional, the technology doesn't have a good capacity to amplify.
You went to India for Microsoft as a hopeful young man that you could actually change the world. You discovered that you were not completely right about that. What does Silicon Valley not understand about the rest of the world?
I think the biggest thing is they're living in their own bubble where everybody believes that the impact that the internet and other technologies have on their own lives necessarily transfer to other people who don't have as much education or political power.
Well, explain how this works, because you went out and did field experiments that worked, and you thought, this is great. We can provide these laptops, these computers to other students, and then you didn't get the results. Why?
That's right. So in experiments, they worked, and that was because in the experiments we conducted, we worked in environments where we had set up the conditions to be perfect. We had good teachers, we had good administrators, good headmasters, and then we ourselves kind of made sure the technology worked. Those conditions don't hold in exactly the schools where you would want the technology to have positive impact.
Yeah, an economist would say institutions matter. You have to pay attention to the context of where an experiment is taking place. That's true in the U.S. as well.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I found, that institutions matter. I was amazed that when I came back to the United States, everybody was so excited about more technology in the classroom, but really that only helps in cases where the schools are already doing well. Schools that are struggling actually struggle also to incorporate technology.
What about M-Pesa in Kenya that allows people to transfer money over very simple cell phones? Is that a counterexample?
Well, that's a good example of the technology amplifying things in a positive direction. So in Kenya, there was already an established custom of urban migrants sending money back home to rural areas, and so this system allowed them to do it cheaply and more frequently.
You worked for Bill Gates when you were doing this. He funds a lot of these projects around the world. Does he and do other people who fund these technology projects get it? Are they beginning to understand that you need a foundation before you just throw technology in there?
Yeah, I think so. Bill Gates is obviously an incredibly smart guy who is really interested in changing the face of global poverty. I think initially he had biases that were kind of technological in the same way that I did, but over time he's come to see that, for example, to eradicate polio, you need very strong health institutions in place before you can actually reach the people who need vaccines.
You went to India, you understood things better, you came home. What is now the answer for people who would want to use technology to change the world?
So first of all, I don't think there's anything wrong with using technology. If you're already doing something well and doing it something good, you can of course use technology to amplify your own impact. But the big error comes in thinking that therefore the technology is doing the magic. It's really a combination of the right person with the technology. And so spreading the technology everywhere doesn't always have the impact that everybody thinks it will.
And I was really struck by what you wrote about how that really is true in America as well. We have this focus from the Department of Education right now on getting iPads into the hands of kids, what you're showing in the book is that when kids get iPads, they play games.
Exactly, and everybody has seen this. If you look over the shoulder of a kid with a smartphone, they're playing Angry Birds. They're not playing educational apps.
So one of your solutions is more focus on teachers, on the people who actually motivate the students to want to learn rather than letting technology do it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's just no way around good adult guidance for learning. I mean, I was in an environment where I went to the same high school Bill Gates went to, and this is a rich high school with all the technology you could possibly want. But what the parents want for their kids when they need extra boost for their child is more adult guidance. They were paying for me to be a tutor.
And of course, this is about money. Technology can't be a substitute for money in education. Is that what we're learning?
That's exactly right.
Well, you spend money on technology, though. It's the proper use of the money to find the way to actually make the impression on the student.
Right, and I think one of the things that we mistake is that we think of education as being the content, and the technology often delivers that content. But really, education is about generating the right motivation in the student, and that requires good adult guidance.
Kentaro Toyama, I have to admit I'm just a sucker for your book. I'm in the tank for it because he said exactly what it is that I've been waiting for somebody to say, and he says it, well, definitely worth the read.